All right, welcome back to Friday Live. This was our third week doing a live stream here from our New York HQ. I'm Stephen Pulverant, the managing editor of Hodinkee.
I'm Cara Barrett, editor at Hodinkee.
And we thought we would start this week with a piece of news that hits a little close to home in a great way. The Grand Prix announced their new jury this week, and our own editor-in-chief, Jack Forrester, was named for the first year. So congrats to Jack, who is currently in Geneva. We've got claps all around the office here. So Jack is currently in Geneva, so he's not with us here this week, but he kept the news super quiet, didn't tell any of us, and we all had to congratulate him from an ocean away. But it's pretty exciting stuff. So he is taking a spot that was formerly occupied by Ben Clymer.
Yeah.
But that's not the only change to the jury this year. There's actually been quite a number of changes. So we wanted to kind of take a look at the jury and how it's changed over the last 2 or 3 years and what that really means. So Cara and I went and did a little digging and guessed a couple URLs, and we're able to get the juries from the past 2 years as well. So we've got right here, we've got the juries from 2015 and 2016, as well as this year's new 2017 jury. So we kind of took a look and tried to figure out like what's changed and what does it mean. And there's a couple big differences. Do you want to touch on any?
More women.
More women, imagine
Fantastic. Girl power.
It's not all old white dudes anymore. It's still mostly old white dudes, but
yeah, mostly. But there's we have Suzanne Wong who joined, and she's really incredible. I don't know if you guys know her. She's got fiery red hair, fiery opinions. It's gonna be really great to see what she does.
She's taking Sean Lee's spot, and Sean Lee, even though they both represent revolution, they basically couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
They're both experts for sure. But Sean kind of came to the industry a little later. He was a collector who kind of crossed over. I wouldn't quite say he's like old guard, but he's kind of old guard.
Yeah.
Slightly more conservative taste, really well established.
Yeah.
And Suzanne is also well established, but like you said,
just fresh.
She's fresh. She's different. She's younger. She's not like
she's cool.
She's cool, and she's not the usual person you see.
Yeah.
And she's also like a no bullshit kind of person.
Right.
Having sat on panels with her before, I can tell you she is a no bullshit person. She has certainly like called me out publicly for.
Oh, really?
Before. Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, we had some conversations at Dubai Watch Week that were great and like really healthy debate. But you know, she had some issues with some things I'd said in the past, and she called me out, which is great.
There you go.
And I think that could be a big help to the Grand Prix.
Yeah,
I think it'd be nice to have people who are willing to kind of like buck the establishment. And that's something else is even though, you know, we've kind of seen the jury change, it's still over 50% people who are like in the industry.
Right.
And then, you know, the other 50% is mostly trade journalists.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people who are stakeholders, which is...
Right. So still playing it kind of safe.
Yeah, and it's good in some ways because it's all people who really care about watches. In other ways, it's kind of a closed loop. And it's something I personally would like to see change, is to bring in more people from outside the industry or more people who are just consumers.
Yeah.
It's something like the Oscars get flack for all the time. It's like the Academy is about like the movies, like with a capital M, and it ends up feeling kind of insider baseball.
Yeah, like all the weird movies that no
like
one
all
ever
the weird
watches.
Movies. Yeah. Or like the movies that are about Hollywood,
Right.
As opposed to movies that like people actually want to go see.
Yeah.
So I think
This year was pretty good though.
this year was pretty good. That's true. And the Grand Prix, I mean, the jury this year looks good.
There's also Eric Koo, which I'm really excited
Eric
about.
Koo was added. Roger Smith, the
Yeah.
British watchmaker, was added. He's a really amazing addition. Kind of the thing, just to give you some numbers here. So going back to 2015, the jury was 26 total members. It was 24 men and 2 women. Fast forward a year later, add one more member, 27 members, 21 men, 6 women. This year, it's 28 members. We add one more, and it's 21 men and 7 women. So it's a noticeable change.
Yeah, I think it's a good progress.
Progress. We'll take the progress where we can get it. There's also new countries represented.
Yeah.
The first Iranian member of the jury
that's
was
amazing.
appointed this year.
Love it.
We're seeing kind of a better mix of European countries, a better mix of people from Asia. So it's really, I think, starting to become a better cross-section of who's actually there.
Yeah.
I think the number that shocked me the most is since 2015, the jury has turned over 54%. So if you look at the watches that were winning in 2015,
Totally different from last year.
Totally different. Like they might, those same watches might not win this year.
Yeah.
You have, different perspectives. You have Suzanne replacing Sean, and they're not direct one-to-one swaps, but we kind of try to figure out like what makes the most sense in terms of who is off and who is on.
I can't wait to see who the nominees are.
Yeah, so we won't find that out for another couple months.
Yeah, I think so.
Late summer, early fall.
Yeah.
And we'll be covering that. We'll obviously have lots of perspectives.
When they come here.
Yeah, Jack can't talk too much about it since he's on the jury this year, but we are going to have Ben on, and Ben can kind of explain what the jury process is like. As you would imagine, when you have these kinds of personalities all in a room, all kind of trying to decide what's best, I would imagine it's a little interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some heavy debates.
That's putting it nicely, I'm sure. But yeah, so it should be interesting. It's big news, and congrats again to Jack for his nomination.
Well deserved.
Really well deserved. I'm kind of hoping Jack picks something that's super weird out of left field to win.
Yeah. Could be great.
Yeah, whichever watch has like the most unusual complications as a leg up, I think.
Yeah,
so it's
definitely. Yeah, well, I went to Christie's this morning.
All right.
If you may have seen on the Hodinkee Instagram story. So Ben and I went and we checked out the highlights from Geneva. The auctions are next week. And there's some really cool things. The first thing I saw were about 10 Paul Newmans. So many Paul Newmans, didn't know what to do.
Is that even exciting anymore?
I mean, if I'm being totally honest, it's kind of like, all right, like great. Like
they're not that hard to find, right?
They're not that hard to find, but like you kind of have to look for like the nuances. And so they had one that was like a 6241, and it was yellow gold, 14 karat. There are only like 400 of those made. This one had the original sticker on the case back.
Okay.
It was in really good condition.
So it's like better than your average.
Yeah, better than your average one. And that was 200 to 400,000 Swiss francs.
Okay.
So pricey, but expected.
Yeah.
It's nothing like the ones coming up in Phillips, which was one of only three.
Which is a gold oyster.
Yeah, gold oyster 6263.
Which, like, can you believe there are only 3 of those?
No, I was really surprised to hear that.
I was too. We were talking about them in the office this morning, and like
really embarrassed I didn't know that, and I was like, oh,
right.
There's only 3 of them.
I
That's why it's so important.
100, 200?
What?
Maybe. I would have guessed 100, maybe 200.
I think so.
But there's 3.
It also has a bracelet too, which is nice. But yeah, so that one's 800 to 1.2 million.
Do you think it'll go higher?
I don't know. We'll see.
It's tough, right?
It's tough. I can't make that call.
Okay.
It's kind of.
Would you pay 1.2 for it?
I don't know.
I'm going to call it now. Cara would pay 1.2
no,
for
yeah. Well, I have been looking for a gold watch this summer, so that's kind of like.
You deserve it. You work hard.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I think so too. And then there was there was this white gold Submariner, which is a thing I didn't realize I needed, but I definitely need it.
It's kind of a hot mess.
It's not for everybody. I'll say that.
Is it for anybody?
It's for me.
Okay.
For sure.
Fair.
Guilty pleasure. I love bark bracelets.
Okay.
Confession.
It has a super weird bezel too, right?
Yeah. The bezel, it's only it only has like the little markings
like
on
the
two. Yeah, only on 2 portions. I'm not really sure why. No one seems to know why, but it's a prototype. So it's only one of this is one of 3. There's 2 blue dials, 1 black dial. This is one of the blue dials. It's kind of faded to that like beautiful purple-ish blue color. Yellow gold indexes, and it has the bark President's bracelet, as I mentioned earlier.
Okay. What's the estimate on that?
That one is 250 to 500.
Okay.
And there's no serial number, so it's like kind of.
Do you think that's going to dissuade anybody?
I don't think so because it's been confirmed. So I think it's fine.
Okay.
But I definitely,
you say it's good.
If I had a casual 500K laying around, I would definitely be bidding on that watch.
Okay.
And then the watch that I didn't see that I was really hoping to see was the Haile Selassie 2497.
So you kind of now at this point like have a personal history with this watch?
Yes, I have a personal relationship with this watch now. So about a month ago, I announced that on Hodinkee here, that it was back up for sale. So it was originally up for auction in November of 2015, and it was unceremoniously just pulled from the sale in the middle of the room. Everyone was upset.
Like while everyone was there.
Yeah, everyone was there. It was like a whole hullabaloo. Like
that doesn't happen often.
No, it rarely happens. Like I said, a watch will be pulled before the auction, like the day before, the night before, not usually during the auction. So it was really dramatic. So then it came out that there was a title dispute with the watch because it used to belong to Haile Selassie, and then was gifted to the current consignor's family. Gifted. We can't say.
It's unclear.
It's unclear. And so then it was just that was settled in December. So there's no question anymore. It is the consignor has every
there's no question.
Yeah, but the consignor has every right to sell it in Geneva. That's been cleared.
Okay.
However, when I posted that, I definitely got some emails from the Haile Selassie family, just kind of.
Yeah.
They're still upset.
They're still upset.
Understandably so.
They are still questioning whether or not
Yeah.
the title dispute was settled properly.
Yes.
Legally, in Geneva, it's fine. Christie's has the rights, they assure us,
Yes.
to sell this watch. But
So all good, but just.
But you didn't see it this morning.
I didn't see it this morning, so it didn't come to the U.S.
Why?
Just because they didn't want it to open it up to any kind of dispute or criticism on U.S. soil. So it's still in Geneva. So if you're in Geneva next week, you can go see it. And it's a really crazy watch.
So what do we think is going to happen if you buy this watch?
I don't know. It could be. It's tough.
And what's the estimate?
It's 500 to 1 million Swiss franc.
So it's a pretty major watch.
It's major. It's one of two.
It's a pretty major watch.
$24.97.
To buy if you're not sure that if you buy it, it could get repossessed.
I mean, sorry, what?
It could get taken.
Yeah, it could. Yes, it could.
So you could spend $1 million on this watch.
But people are still raving about it, though. Like David Parmigiani said it was the one watch he's never had, so he wants it.
Okay.
So I don't think it will dissuade certain people.
Interesting. Do you think it'll hurt the market value at all?
It might.
It might?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't get.
Well, we'll have Arthur there next week.
Yeah,
so
Arthur will be there.
Arthur will get to take a look. We'll have some live photos of it.
Yeah.
It should be good.
Yeah, it should be really great. So it was. Yeah, I was bummed not to see it in person.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like
it's beautiful.
Not only is it the cover lot for the sale, and they don't have it. There we go. This has to be the first time in a long time, if not ever, that a major auction house has not had their cover lot for preview in New York because of potential legal problems.
Yes, or if there's like if you ship a watch over and it has like illegal substance on it, you can't ship it. So then that kind of can affect it. So maybe that could be a singular case. But yes, it is unusual for auction houses not to send their cover lots.
So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens next week.
Happens.
Tune in.
Cool.
Yeah.
Going on to something completely different.
Yeah.
We called this watch in earlier this week, or late last week actually, because it's so different than anything else that's out there. It's probably not what you usually expect to see from Hodinkee. But this is the HYT H0, and we really wanted to show it to you because it is so completely different from anything else. So
yeah, it's awesome.
One of the first rules of like mechanical watches is like liquid is bad. Liquid is your enemy. It's the whole reason we had the oyster case and waterproofing, and why every brand touts how waterproof everything is. There are basically two modern watches with liquid in them. There's this HYT's portfolio, and then the Resonance Type 3, which is an oil. What HYT does is they use fluid kind of in this tube around the edge of the watch as the hour marker. And it presents a strange engineering problem because not only do you have to figure out how mechanically to move this fluid around, but you have to make sure that the fluids don't mix. So there's a clear fluid, and there's the blue, in this case blue fluid. Different watches come with different colors, and they have to figure out how to make these not mix at the point where they meet, especially as they're moving back and forth. So it's a pretty strange engineering problem. It has to do with surface tension and the force of these mechanical bellows that pump the fluids. But the result is pretty awesome, and it's actually retrograde. So as you advance the hour here, you see the fluid move. And when you get down to 6 o'clock, you'll see it'll just retract on its own back to the other side like that.
That's so cool.
It's pretty wild.
This is a good summer watch for you.
Yeah, it's very much my style.
Yeah,
it's very much my style. It's also like I could probably wear it on like my thigh, not my wrist, but it's a little big. But it's pretty amazing, and like even if it's not something I would ever wear personally, which honestly it's not, it's cool, and I respect it, and I'm interested in it. And one of the things that struck me immediately when I saw this is the crazy sapphire crystal. It's just like it's huge and it's domed, and it kind of encapsulates the whole mechanism.
Well, isn't it supposed to look like a polished stone?
Yeah,
like
it
a
is.
Pebble?
Yeah, which it does kind of, but it's also, their suppliers must hate them.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
talking to anyone in the watch industry, like they will tell you that one of the hardest things to make are sapphire crystals. The tooling is really finicky. It's really difficult to make. And if you talk to folks like the folks at Urwerk or Max at MB&F, like they will tell you the hardest components of their watches to make aren't gears, they're not jewels, they're not screws, they're crystals. And I can't even imagine the conversation that the engineers at HYT must have had with their supplier to make this. It probably takes over 100 hours of CNC work. Break rate is probably crazy. It's probably, I would guess, the most expensive component in this watch. I don't know that, but I would guess.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's not what you're used to seeing from us.
No,
but we'll
awesome.
have a full hands-on look for you soon, complete with some GIFs and some video of the watch in action. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I know this is definitely not your style. It's possibly closer to my style
Definitely
than your
closer
style.
to your style than mine. But I appreciate it. I think it's a really interesting piece. It's a conversational piece.
Okay.
And I think it's something really cool that you don't see often in our safes. So I'm excited to see the GIF on the site, though.
Anything else in the safe that we don't have here that you want to talk about?
No.
We're kind of cleared out right now.
Yeah, it's kind of quiet right now.
It's a little quiet, yeah.
But next week we can get some stuff.
Next week we have some really fun stuff coming.
Yeah.
And we'll have it all for you here.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
But, yeah, love it.
So, we mentioned a couple weeks ago when we relaunched the site that we had made all of these changes and we wanted your feedback, and we've gotten lots of really good feedback from people. The site is going really, really well, but we wanted to bring on somebody who could explain that to you much better than me, or much better than Kara, or much better than any of us over on the editorial side. And that's Adam Kopak, who's our design director, who's really the kind of mastermind behind the new site. So we're going to bring Adam on. Kara is going to say goodbye to us for now.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
And happy Cinco de Mayo. And so we've got Adam coming on, and what Adam's going to do is kind of walk us through the changes to the site, how some of these decisions were made, and just kind of explain this whole other side of Hodinkee that I think a lot of you probably aren't aware of. So welcome on, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
I'll just say nobody's referred to me as a mastermind before, unless it was in an ironic setting before. So thank you. That was very kind.
It was ironic.
Okay, just to be clear.
So before we get into the site, one thing, again, that I think not everybody necessarily knows out there is that everyone in this office loves watches. Really, like everyone from the editors to our video team who are back there making sure this happens, to our engineering and product team. So what watch are you wearing today?
So I'm wearing my beloved Speedy.
Cool.
Pop it this way. So this is not a particularly crazy rare reference, but this is my first watch.
Oh, really?
I feel like with most watch guys, the Speedy is kind of a good intro to the world. And what's really neat about this is that this is a late 90s reference, the 3572.
Okay.
And what's great about this is that it has a Hesalite crystal front, so you kind of get that warmth of the vintage vibe. But turn this over, you get the sapphire case back.
Cool.
So, when you're first getting into watches, it's always nice to have a reminder why you spent so much money on your first watch.
Yeah,
You have to really appreciate the movement.
I feel like that doesn't go away.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's true.
Cool.
But, a little bit more of a 1863 caliber decorated movement, and that's just great.
Amazing.
Wear it all, every day and beat it up, and it's going to be with me for a long time.
Cool. That's awesome. Great.
Yeah, I mean, what are you wearing today?
So I actually,
while we're on the,
while we're doing
topic.
it. So I have. So this wasn't my first watch. This was my first Rolex. So this is my GMT. This is from 1970. I bought it, a couple of years into being interested in watches. It was at the time the single largest purchase of any kind I had ever made, which super stressed me out.
Yeah, I feel that for sure.
But I took some good advice from our fearless leader, Ben Clymer, and a few others. And I kind of stretched myself a little bit and bought like the best example I could possibly afford.
Good on you.
So it's unpolished. I have the whole bracelet, box and papers, the whole thing. And it's really paid off. I feel really happy with it. I mean, I love the watch. It's also been a pretty sound investment, which is nice. Doesn't hurt anything. And I probably wear this watch 50% of the time, if not more. I just love this watch. And I travel all the time for this job, so I'm not really a chronograph person. I find I don't use them. I've owned them before, and I just never use them. I use this GMT complication all the time, whether I'm traveling or somebody I know is traveling. Even like sometimes when other people in the office are in Geneva, like I'll set it to Geneva time so I know what time it is there.
For sure.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a nice thing.
Totally. So I have one from 78, and I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
For sure.
We thought about doing matching GMTs and thought that might be.
I know we have so many GMTs in this office.
We do.
Kind of silly.
I think we probably have 5 of them, maybe 6 of them in this office. Yeah, I think that speaks to the fact that it is just like a very practical complication.
For sure.
Cool. Well, I won't waste any more time with my watch. We'll get into the site. So I would love it if you could just kind of tell our audience here, like, what was the origin of this project? Like, how did the idea to redo things come about, and how did you start to tackle that problem?
Yeah, for sure. I think at a high level, just kind of talking about what I do, at in its simplest form, myself and the engineering team and kind of everyone here, we work on making the site better every day. So whether it's tiny tweaks here and there, or just making our content management system faster, or making the site load better, sometimes we undergo kind of big projects.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. So I think with any kind of design project, it starts with a goal, or several goals. And sometimes you're just, you're solving problems. Sometimes you're just trying to come up with new things. And I remember this was something that I was really excited to work on and get out. This has been in the making for the last couple of months. I remember when we first talked about this. This was one of the first projects that you and I really wanted to work on together. Just because there's so much opportunity to make this site great. And it's been really fun.
Yeah.
So, just at a high level, one of the goals we really wanted to accomplish was just better content discovery.
Right.
Like, if you remember, the old design was very linear, very reverse chronological. So you get on the site, you generally see what's been posted recently, which I think is great because there's a certain timeliness to the news side of things here.
Right.
And you certainly get that with the new homepage. Being able to scroll down and see the latest content. But I also think we have some content that is a little more timeless and is less important to showcase the recency of it. So scrolling down here, you'll notice in the homepage we just have much higher information density, so we're showing more stories. But also we have this really great feature in that we could hand pick content that we want to highlight, as well as algorithmically show things that are more popular or most discussed. So just in general, moving a little bit away from timeliness and more just kind of showing evergreen popular content.
Okay. Great. And I love this video module that's on the homepage. It's one of my favorite things. We take all these time. If you see what our video team goes through to produce these videos, it's crazy.
For sure.
And it always felt like a shame to me that you couldn't just watch video on the homepage. And now I love that, like, if you really just want to watch Hodinkee videos, these cycle all the time. We're cycling stuff many, many times per week. And you can come see them. And you can come see them right on the homepage. And maybe if you've only been reading the site for 6 months or a year, you might see a video that you didn't even know existed. And you now kind of have the chance to discover that and enjoy it, which makes me feel good that all the work that these guys put into these videos really gets long-term payoff, and our readers can enjoy them for long periods of time.
Absolutely.
What kind of stuff, you mentioned like everyday tweaks. A lot obviously happens on the back end that people don't see. Mm-hmm. What are the kinds of small things that you're on an average day working to improve?
For sure. Yeah. Whether just working with the engineering team, just make the site faster and load better.
Okay.
But just tweaks here and there, whether it's deciding we want to update our about page, for instance, right? And like making that a little bit better, or one part of this homepage are is these kind of dynamic kind of layouts. And at first we got some feedback saying like, okay, this is cool, but sometimes it's a little confusing to figure out like what exactly I'm looking at. Like, what is what is top stories compared to most discussed, right?
Okay.
So kind of taking that feedback from our readers and just kind of here and just kind of constantly just trying to make the user experience a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah, that brings up a good point, which is we do have the feedback email, which you actually read actively.
Yes, we love feedback.
So if you send an email to feedback@hodinkee.com, like this is the man that's reading it, and making sure that we take all that stuff seriously. I mean, how big a help is that stuff to you just on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, immensely. I mean, I think we define success by accomplishing certain goals, but also, it's successful if we're making the site better every day.
Right.
For sure.
Cool. Well, we're going to talk for a little bit more about the site, but before we do, just wanted to give everyone a heads up. We are going to be taking questions from both the site comments and the YouTube live comments. So if you have a question for either of us, whether it's about the design and product side of things or the more editorial side of things, and again, Adam's a watch guy, so we can throw him a couple curveballs too. Just put you on the spot.
Yeah, you're gonna help me out.
Yeah, it's fine. All right, we'll be good. Leave those in the comments, and in just a couple minutes, we're going to get to those. So jumping back into the site, what were kind of the biggest challenges? Like when you went to reinvent how we're doing this, like what things were hardest for you to figure out, and then how did you tackle them?
For sure. I mean, one thing that was really great about the previous site is that we had these really big images, right? You would scroll through the site, and you would get this very kind of relaxed, big, immersive photo feel, and that's really fantastic for highlighting really macro shots and stuff like that. So a big challenge I think here was, even though we want better content discovery and allow our users to see more stuff, that is kind of at odds with smaller photos. You need to show, if you want to show more stuff, you generally need to shrink things. So certainly one thing we looked at on the homepage was how can we kind of maximize the size of photos and just stories, and making it feel immersive and make you want to click into them and be digestible, as well as being understandable. So that's certainly something we focused on, and also just in general, trying to keep the magazine-like feel of our site, but also elevate it even more so. So I think one thing that we've done that I think is working so far is that we've given you guys a lot more.
The onus is on us now.
Yeah, we've given you guys a lot more kind of creative control and a lot more ability to kind of express yourself. So in doing that, we have what we're calling story templates. So if you've maybe noticed when you're clicking around the site, you'll see stories kind of look a little different and are generally more optimized for the content at hand. So if we have like a big feature story, we may show this beautiful full bleed image, right? And you're scrolling down, and we're just introducing just bigger photos, call outs on the side, beautiful pull quotes, just trying to make this feel immersive and more magazine feel.
Yeah.
And then compare that to other types of content, which may be a little bit quicker, a little bit more like bite-sized, and designing a template for that. Great. So in general, I think that just introduces a nice amount of variety, and hopefully it feels more magazine-like. But
yeah, I agree. I love those call-out boxes on the side where we can kind of like insert little facts.
For sure.
It's nice to be able to have a little aside that doesn't seem to like interrupt the story at all. Again, like we'd love to hear if you like them as much as I do. Maybe it's just me. And GIFs like this to me are like, these are game changing.
Yeah, honestly, that was goal number one.
This is like a thing. There were like cheers in the office the first time we all saw this.
Yeah, forget everything I'm saying. It's all about GIFs for sure.
But it also, what I love is this really puts the onus, all these tools, now that Adam and the product team have done their job, it really puts the onus on us to like not fuck it up. Like we have lots of tools we can use, and they could look great, or we could put them in all the wrong order and like produce terrible assets and it would look awful. So we now kind of have like a better site, and we have to live up to expectations, which is nice. I find as a journalist, like it pushes me to do better work. If I know that I've got the potential there. There's no reason every story can't look amazing if we do it right.
Awesome.
Is nice.
Sweet.
Should we go to questions?
Sure.
All right, let's pull these bad boys up. Hopefully the questions are not all about which one of us has better hair, because I don't really want to lose that one publicly.
It's a blessing and a curse.
And here we go. All right. Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So it's from M Beaver, Beaver. Nice username there. Do you guys think we will see more watch brands releasing limited editions with other jewelers following the Tudor Bucherer Black Bay Bronze release? Yeah, I do. I think something we've shown here is like our limited edition watches have been obviously highly successful. We're very happy with how those sales have gone, and I think other retailers have been doing limited editions and special editions for years. And there's definitely an appetite now for people to have something special. I mean, like,
for sure.
As a watch collector, right? Like, you want something special, something like not every guy's going to have, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it also just feels like a real moment, right? Like,
right, totally.
It's timely for that moment.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think the idea for Bucher to do it not as like a numbered limited edition, but to just have it be like you have to go to Bucher to get this watch, or call Bucher to get this watch. It's a nice little connection, and they're a historic retailer. It's a nice little partnership there.
Agreed.
Yeah, maybe Adam, I think you can definitely help with this one. So somebody wants to know, I don't have a username on this one, but for a first-time vintage watch buyer who's looking to acquire kind of like an iconic piece, a Submariner, a Speedmaster, a Heuer chronograph, something like that, what is the single best place to find a good deal right now?
I can speak to that.
Yeah?
So my Speedy, before I had kind of gotten into the watch world and been more regularly reading Hodinkee, my goal was to get the cheapest possible price.
Okay.
So, I do the classics, setting up eBay alerts and whatnot.
Okay.
And my trick was getting all the misspellings of Speedmaster. And it turns out after a couple weeks of waiting, by the way, patience is a key, but a couple weeks of waiting, I got an alert at 4 a.m. on eBay from a misspelling of the word Speedmaster from a Japanese buyer.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, with a Japanese seller. So because of that, no one had seen it, and the price was very low. So I just woke up my fiance, and I was like, I gotta buy this. And that was it. So I got a really good deal on this for sure.
Patience sucks.
I know,
Patience is
but
terrible,
it's a virtue,
but-
man. But
So they say.
anyway, yeah. So I think the watch is real. I haven't verified that. But
It turns out we've just shown you like a totally fake cobbled together watch.
Yeah. Wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but you could. And
I actually think that's good advice. Okay. I think eBay is a great place. I think there are dealers out there who obviously specialize in like crazy, the most perfect example of stuff. We talked about Eric Koo earlier on regards to the GPHG jury. Like, Eric is the guy to go to if you want something amazing. If you want like an inexpensive entry into vintage Rolex, like, he's probably not your best bet. He'll sell you an amazing watch, but it's not going to be bargain basement prices. But there are dealers out there who can do that. Generally, you can check who like the dealers are in your local market. Maybe they're not the guys you hear about, flying to Geneva for the auctions, but there are people out there. And then also, if you have kind of like industry connections, you can look at IWJG shows, the jewelry shows.
Sure.
You can find some pretty great deals there, but you have to have an industry connection there. Yeah, I think eBay is probably your best bet, especially if price is your kind of number one motivating factor. And I think that's a good thing, actually. I think like buying a watch that might not be like super duper collector grade, like it's going to sit in your safe and be worth 10x as your first watch. Like, buy a watch you want to wear,
absolutely,
and that you can have fun with, and like see if it's for you and enjoy it, and then you can always upgrade later. Like, there's no reason to feel pressure to buy a museum piece for your first watch.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see here. We've got from creators.inc. I want to understand how serious watchmaking is different from what micro brands or brands which are using ETA/Sellita movements. Yeah. Well, they're really two totally different things. I think, on one end, there's some really high-end serious watchmaking that, serious watchmaking, whatever that means. Things are being done by hand. Things are being done the old-fashioned way, like on purpose, sort of for its own sake. And that's great. That's really amazing. I mean, we have the like Philippe Dufours and such with the Roger Smiths of the world. And then you have people doing really high-end things in a much more modern way. You have, the Gronfelds and Kari Voutilainen and those people. But But then there's micro brands, and those folks are, not opening workshops of, 10 people to sit and hand cut screws and hand turn gears on 150-year-old machines. But that doesn't make those watches less interesting or less potentially valuable in kind of an emotional sense. I think it's been really fun to watch the explosion of like small brands, even just here in the New York area, of like guys who really love watches and find a way to quit their day jobs and like make watches for a living.
Totally.
And we meet these people all the time.
Autodromo,
Yeah,
Co.
Exactly.
All those guys.
And like they come by the office, we see them, they're part of the like community here, and I think both can be great, and everything in between. It's really not an either or. And I mean, I own an Autodromo, very recently purchased one. Like it arrived yesterday recently.
Yeah. And it's just the passion that just shows through these guys. It's just unreal. And like that's kind of what it's all about when you're meeting these folks. It's just like you guys love what you do and you love the craft, and as creators, we just really appreciate that.
100%. So I would say like they're very different things, but like neither one is better than the other, kind of objectively.
Totally.
All right, we will take one more. All right, Bill Cull on YouTube asked us, has Hodinkee thought of sponsoring a U.S. watch expo, our own version of Basel/SIHH? The U.S. needs something, and Hodinkee should be the creator. Think about it. I've talked with many respected watch geeks, and they all love the idea.
Consider it thought about.
Yeah, it's thought about, yeah. We love the idea too. The logistics of that are tough. It's something we've thought about, and I think we all can agree that the U.S. is well, it's now the largest market in the world for watches, after being number 2 or number 3 for some years. It could be great. It would have to be done the right way.
Yeah.
And I can tell you we have some other big projects in the pipe right now that might have to take precedence for now. But consider a thought about. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we were to see something like that in the next couple of years.
Would be cool.
No promises. Do not hold me to this at all, please. You heard me. Don't hold me to it.
Got it.
Cool. Well, I think
Sweet.
That's good for this week. We'll be back next week again with possibly another guest. We're definitely going to have Adam back on, mostly to just like give him super hardcore watch nerd questions. It's totally put you on the spot.
Bring it on.
But thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next week for Friday Live. Have a good weekend. Happy Cinco de Mayo.